Hello. Looks like I'm live. Let's see here. Where's the chat room? The chatty room while we wait for the Revolution.Radio countdown. We got too many browsers. What's going on here? Move all these windows over here. Let's check the chat room if I can find it. There we go. Dears it is. YOLO mofos. We'll let some people roll in here to YouTube if they're coming. There's some droids that I'm not looking for. YOLO, YOLO. They are not the droids. And as we wait for the Revolution.Radio countdown, which is in a minute or two, I get my ducks in a row here. Because I actually spaced out and didn't get ready to do a show. So we're just going to wing it today and just do the thing. Do the thing live. Like Bill O'Reilly said, we'll do it live! We'll do it live! I'm just kidding. Linda, how's it going? Can you believe it? Good evening and happy Saturday and happy New Year's. I hope everybody's having a great New Year's, looking into a new direction for things, in a different direction. That's where everybody needs to find a new direction. Unless you were on a good path already, I guess you do not need to deviate. These are the voyages in the quantum vortex. Hello, hello, the big Lebowski, Logan. Hello. Hello, hello. No virgins in here. Every time I've been noticing there's some virgins, and go ahead and help me with those thumbs up if you like it. And, you know, I say stuff on here that sometimes people don't agree with, and you're free to disagree with it. And I might change my mind also by next week. You never know. New information changes one's ideas about things sometimes. Hope you and yours are having a marvelous weekend. So far, so good. Can't complain. Well, I guess we could. We could all complain. Whoa, what is that? I don't see it. They got some like real hardcore heavy metal there in the intro. And the guy that plays the New American Dream radio show that's like right before Mayak. He has a really good show, but he can't get his audio together. There's always echoes. He never mutes himself. It's just crazy. But he has like really good guests on there. Some of them I don't agree with, some hardcore leftists, but he has guests like Larry Pinckney, who's an American patriot. If you know who that is, he's the original founding father of the Black Panthers. No, not the new Black Panther Party, the Marxist group, the racist group that goes around now, but the original one that was kind of, you know, fighting for constitutional rights for everybody equally, you know, if you understand what I'm saying. So he wasn't necessarily a pro-black, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Activist, I guess. He was down for everybody. And if you listen to him today, he's still a patriot. I've been trying to get a hold of him and get him on the show. I've been talking to him on and off for a couple of years. Almost had him on 2 or 3 channels ago. He got sick. You might see him sometimes he's on the Alex Jones show. Pretty cool dude. So we're going to try to get him as our next guest in here if I can arrange that. Yes, the blue wrenches are for everyone. And I think we're about to go live on Revolution.Radio. It's funny, you guys get 2 intros, you know, you just get me effing off in here and then when I have to get professional. Just kidding. Oh, and I was also going to say, oh, you're the electrician. I got you. Yeah, I think I met you a couple times. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. Speaking of diamond, meet me for the cosmic catastrophes on Magnetic Reversal News right after this show, so you could just switch right over there. It's like we're a gang and I'm in it. No, I'm just joking. Not really. We're just people with our own opinions. I'm sure that, oops, here we go. Welcome to Mountain High Time. This is your host, Ransom Godwin, right here on Revolution.Radio, where the internet never sleeps. And something about the truth, I always mess it up. I'm going to have to write that down and just put it right in front of me so, I can say it without stuttering or misspeaking, which is bad on this channel, by the way. So, if you're looking for a perfect broadcaster that never makes mistakes, well, this is the wrong place. I say stuff all the time, misspeak, say the wrong thing, all kinds of stuff. What's going on here? We got an echo? No echo? All right. Good. How's this one doing? That sounds good too. All right, cool. We're on. What's up, Raven Wolf Channel? Gary, how's it going? And for those of you on Revolution.Radio, if you'd like to see some of the pictures that go along with the stories that I read, or, if you'd like to read along and, you might get a better understanding out of it, because sometimes I misspeak, is what I was telling my YouTube audience. So don't get mad at me. You can correct me. I'm not going to hate you. Don't worry about it. That's what learning's all about, is being able to correct yourself and admit that you're wrong when you're wrong. But as far as it goes for things that are unknown, like as far as archaeology and other things, I can say what I want because they're just making up theories and they have no idea and can't prove it anyway. Sometimes they do, and I'll go ahead and agree with it if I agree with that information. But a lot of times not. Let's just move right into the news here and see what's going on. So I didn't really super plan the show today. I kind of just rolled in here. So we're going to wing it. Just going to wing it and go along down the internet here. If I can figure it out. Here we go. It's off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Look, it's Jeffrey Epstein. His fixer's office burglarized hours before document dump. Exclusive. Hold on. I gotta move this echo away from me. All right, there we go. Michael Sidrick, a renowned Hollywood crisis manager, says New Year's Day break-in at the Bentwood offices where thieves stole computers has to be a coincidence? Sure. Just like him choking himself to death with toilet paper. This dude didn't kill himself. And, if you're one of those people out there that's really excited about the Epstein client list that actually was not a client list, but nothing more than court dockets about what people said during a court hearing, guess what? They're not going to prosecute anyone. Well, excuse me. They're not going to prosecute anyone, and I'll tell you why. They can't prove who was where, when, what jurisdiction. Are they going to get the people to testify against big people? Will they end up Clintoned, if you know what I'm saying? And, kind of like what's happened in the past with people that may or may not have had dirt on the Clintons seem to get sick or sad or, other things quite often. Here, let me move my chair. There we go. There's some guy that I think he's a host on another show on Revolution Radio. He really has a problem with my squeaky chair. I'm sorry, but it's comfortable. And other chairs make my back hurt. So you're just going to have to deal with the squeakiness. So what do you guys think? Was it a coincidence that somebody broke into the place where the document dump was going to come from? I don't find it coincidental at all. And matter of fact, the whole thing is just a big joke. And it makes you wonder really what the big picture is in the background while they're, dumping all of this Epstein stuff onto the public. What's really going on? Because like I said, they're not going to prosecute anyone. And actually for them, they can spend this and make it great for the elite, where they can spend, years and years, distracting the public with nothing burgers. 4 new batches of documents naming Jeffrey Epstein's associates released. Now, am I saying that they shouldn't release all of this? Of course not. I agree with total transparency, and I think every single one of these, jerks that are offing, should be named and identified and pointed out in society so that everybody knows exactly what kind of people are where. We all assumed it. We all, theorized about it. And One thing I can say about the release of some of these documents, none of them really being a client list. And if you haven't been paying attention, those, hard drives and disks and notebooks and all that stuff they got seized by the FBI off of Epstein's Island will never see the light of day. That was the client list. That was the dirt. And that was all the stuff that was coming up from this guy who him and his girlfriend were known Mossad agents. And deeply involved with the Israeli intelligence agency. And it's no doubt that they were running a hardcore honeypot to get pictures and videos and scenarios so that they could bribe, very influential people. But I'm more than sure that this is not the only so-called Epstein or so-called Epstein's Island or a honeypot. I imagine there's thousands of these things being run by different, factions and different governments all the time. Puff, puff. So I don't think that we're ever really going to get anything out of any of that. Here's a new article that I find interesting, and I think it's pretty true right here. The rise of climate change skeptics in politics. It's a global trend. Now, I haven't read this article, so they may talk about it in a negative light, but let's see. In recent years, the rise of climate change skeptics in political arenas has brought a new perspective to the forefront. Danny Healy-Rae, an independent TD from Kerry, Ireland, is one such figure who has been labeled as a climate change skeptic. His bold statement in 2016 suggesting that there is little humans can do to control the weather drew both criticism and support. This trend is not limited to Ireland alone. The recent Dutch elections saw the emergence of an anti-green party as the biggest winner, reflecting the global rise in climate change skepticism. Similar candidates are gaining traction in upcoming elections in the U.S., U.K., and other countries. They present a counter-narrative to what they perceive as a conspiratorial cult around climate change. Now, I'm just going to leave it there. Obviously, if you've been paying attention to me or others, there's plenty of factual evidence out there to suggest that the whole thing is garbage. It's garbage. And not only that, like when you see these models of supposedly global climate change rising, and then you go back and you look at a map of where they had the sensors around the world, and they had several hundred in Europe and several hundred in the U.S., but yet they're claiming to have global averages at those times. How did they get global averages if they didn't have the sensors all around the world back to when they're claiming they have data from? I don't know. But the rise of climate change skeptics is a good thing. No science is settled, and if anyone ever says that the science is settled on any topic, immediately they're full of Bravo Sierra, or as we like to say around here, caca de toro. Ese, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, that was the wrong article. I wasn't going to move to that one. How about if you're flying around in a plane, and this is one of my greatest fears right here. You're flying around in a plane, and then, part of the aircraft just blows off into the wind, which is what happened to an Alaskan Airlines. They lost a section of its fuselage mid-flight, causing an emergency landing. I'm sure that people were terrified, petrified, and, I don't know about scared shitless because they probably were wearing their brown pants, at that point. Let me go check in on the chat over here and see how my ramblings are doing. Elena Mantelango. Oh, I said it wrong. Mantiegua. I better not. I just better not get in trouble. Mantiaguado. I can't say it. So, even though I said I wasn't going to say it, I said it 3 times. Hello, everybody in the chat. Ancient but still here. Elena, Bill Sibley, Val, Simon, etc., etc. Suzika. I said that right last time. Suzika. I don't know. I used to have a teacher in school, not anything to do with that name, but I think her name was Suzukita, and she was from Japan. Cool lady, very smart. I got in trouble though one time, looking at her buttocks in class, and they moved me to this big old 6 foot tall white guy that was not attractive. Let's just say, be careful where you look. You know what I mean? The Z sounds like the word measure. Okay? Anyway, one of my greatest fears flying, because, recently we've flown to Mexico a couple times, and oh my God, I hate the whole thing. It's not that I'm super scared. It's just that I know it's one of those situations in which you've given over all sovereignty, decision making, and control in your life. Maybe that's like, how you live your life and other things, but I really don't like to do that. It's the same reason I'm against putting, manufactured goods into my intravenous system, especially when I don't really know the science, don't know who made it, don't know what their agenda is, and then, what I do think I do know is all negative things. So I've always just skipped the medication. But this is one of my other greatest fears here. It's just a section of the plane blowing off in mid-flight. And I always pick the window seat because, I like to look out the window. And what a scary idea to just be sitting there. And then the next thing, the wall is gone next to you. There is a vacuum. It's sucking all the papers and loose debris out of it for, a couple minutes until they drop in altitude. I'm not sure at which height they were actually flying at because there's not much literature on here. Let's see. It says an Alaskan Airlines flight from Oregon to Southern California made an emergency landing Friday following a mid-air incident in which part of the side of the plane appeared to have detached. Flight 1282 landed safely at the Portland International Airport, where they were met with Free Gaza protesters. No, I'm just joking. I added that part. All right. Anyway, they landed. No injuries were reported among the 174 passengers and 6 crew members on board. The Federal Aviation Administration said it returned to the airport after the crew reported the pressurization issue. Alaska described what had happened as an incident. Well, of course it's an incident. But just imagine you're sitting there and you got your toddler in your lap or your 6-month-old infant in your lap. And then pressure changes all of a sudden and the wall flies off. Guess what? They don't provide seat belts or car seats for your children. Just saying. I don't know if you can take a car seat with you because I'm pretty sure it would work with the buckle system in the airplane, but you'd have to buy a whole nother seat. And I don't think they allow that. Just the idea, though, that your toddler or, maybe even your emotional support animal was sitting, right by the wall of the airplane while it just flew off into nowhere. Scary, man. Scary. Horrible. But they say it's the safest way to travel, Safest way to travel. Anyway, Trump vows to restore American greatness while Democrats try to destroy our nation, according to this thing. I was going to watch it, but I didn't. Man, the whole thing is corny. These people are corny. I'm pretty sure that it's just central casting at this point. I'm not exactly sure which year the whole thing was transferred over to a television show, but I'm almost positive the entire thing is nothing more than bread and circus for the masses. They've figured out the sciences of soap opera, and they've combined it with politics and propaganda, and now this is what you get. The back and forth of the nonsensical separation of ideologies in America trying to divide and conquer, which I would say that they've done a pretty good job at. Now let's look at this article right here. Mexico is asking the U.S. to lift Venezuela sanctions. Now, I'm sure a lot of people that want the border closed are probably saying, hey, that's a good thing. But actually, I disagree. When it comes to Venezuelans, I think that we should, practice what we preach as a nation, in which we're supposedly against communism and socialism and dictators taking over and destroying countries, threatening to invade neighboring countries. So, in my opinion, Venezuelans and people from Cuba probably should be the exact people that we are trying to let in asylum-seeking circumstances, but not all of the other countries that have nothing to do with that. Because there's no jobs where you live is not an excuse for asylum. Because the economy's better somewhere, or any of those other excuses are not really a reason to abandon your own area so that you take your skills and your mentality out of that area, essentially destroying the area you left even further. Now, I get it, though, if you can't do nothing about it and your government's gone completely socialist or communist and people are having to eat the zoo animals and things like that, that you would want to flee that. And I think as the United States, we should block almost everyone that's coming across our southern border, except for actual people running from socialism, communism, and war-torn areas, if they want to assimilate, if they want to, use the ideas in our culture as a way to escape and have a better lifestyle. I'm all for that. That's just unfortunately not what's going on. But anyway, according to this article, Mexico asked the U.S. to lift Venezuela's sanctions. The president also called on Washington to end decades-long trade embargo on Cuba. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, AMLO, he's an AMLO, has urged the United States to end its economic penalties on Venezuela, part of its sweeping proposal to tackle Latin America's migration crisis. Yeah, okay. How about this? No. How about we get our own economic things in order? And who are we to put penalties on other people? You know what would solve that is if we made and created all of our own stuff, we just really wouldn't need other countries to give us stuff. And, I am for free trade, of course. And the way that would work is those countries that have things that we don't have, they trade, they sell, and they make money, they do good, and we do good. But that's just not how it works. Our corporations seem to want to have their fist and their finger all the way up in it, getting what they can on every end of it, on taxes, on tariffs, and trade. And all it eventually does is destroy areas, making, arbitrary rules about trade and stuff. Meanwhile, they're setting up the world for a massive hunger crisis. Israel. Ministers melt down in the cabinet meeting over military's plan to probe October 7th intelligence failures and just all-out failures on their border. And which I said at the time, Israel, being a country with some of the most sophisticated software, AI, and human intelligence, somehow didn't know a bunch of people were, paragliding over into their area where there just happened to be nobody on the wall who usually has lots of people. And as I pointed out on my channel many times, has guns, literal AI guns on the walls and borders of the country. So the idea that they snuck in is kind of, So what they'll do is they'll have a 9/11 commission style response to that. And, maybe it's not an accident that people might get their neck broken that work for certain intelligence agencies once their, little honeypot operation gets exposed to the world. What would you do if you were the head of that operation? Well, you'd start killing. You'd start ordering people to go around and collect all the evidence. You'd intimidate people. And basically, the same things that the Clintons get accused of, which, by the way, are heavily implied in this whole debacle. If that doesn't get me banned, anyway. But let's move on to something kind of cooler. And what they say the future holds for the countries of the world is that not only asteroids and things like that, but the planets themselves are now in the sights of many different companies. I'm waiting for some kind of worldwide regulation board that doesn't allow or allows certain companies or only certain people to penetrate the threshold of space and explore what's in there. But according to this article from the Associated Press, 2 companies will attempt the first U.S. moon landing since the Apollo missions a half century ago. And they're still trying to tell you that this is, this aluminum foil and stuff, whatever. There's so many things with the moon landing. Now, I personally do not believe any of the public moon landing stuff. There's too many questions, too many fallacies. The fact that Wernher von Braun had a whole production company producing the images that were to simulate the moon landing, and then seemingly that's what we got later, was a production. Now, I actually think they did go to the moon. They're just not sharing any of that. And you might want to ask yourself, if that's true, then why? Why would they not show us anything? Well, it might be because they found a lot of terrifying things up there. Maybe UFOs, maybe not. Maybe it's just the, actual evidence that our planet gets roasted by the sun every so often, which is my theory. I think that's why they went. I think that's the evidence that they found, and I think that's also why no one gets to know nothing about it. However, supposedly we're going to go back up there, with these different companies. So Cape Canaveral, Florida, China, India scored moon landings, if you believe them. I'm questioning some of their stuff too. Looks like bad video game footage, but whatever. While Russia, Japan, and Israel ended up in the lunar trash heap. Now 2 private companies are hustling to get the U.S. back in the game more than 5 decades after the Apollo program ended. It's part of NASA's supported effort to kickstart commercial moon deliveries as the space agency focuses on getting astronauts back there. Sure. I just don't believe that for some reason, because if we wanted to go to the moon and we wanted to exploit the moon and the moon was open for corporate exploration and exploitation, I have a feeling we'd have a buttload of moon bases up there right now churning out H3 and finding all kinds of mysteries, but that's not what we find in our time. Instead of discovering the universe, some of us are just figuring out what gender we are. And in the backdrop, the made-for-television kind of thing here. Jack Smith, prosecutor, discouraged FBI from investigating Clinton Foundation in 2016. Oh my God, I cannot believe that he would do that. Well, yes, of course I do believe it, because they're all in it together, protecting each other. Government always protects each other or itself, if you haven't figured that out yet. FFA grounds Boeing 737 MAX 9 jets after exit door incident. In other words, they're grounding the planes because half the, or not half of it, but a big chunk of the plane flew off. And in other aviation news, U.S. supersonic bomber crashes. Who knows what it was doing, but let's look at this. Photos circulating online appear to show that a fire not far from Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. A long-range U.S. B-1B Lancer bomber has crashed outside of Ellsworth Air Force Base in South Dakota. Military officials have said nothing. Oh, sorry. Misread. See, there I go again. Nodding the incident took place as the aircraft wrapped up a training mission. Airbase staff confirmed the incident in the statement on Thursday night, saying the bomber went down around 6 p.m. local time while attempting to land at the facility. Well, dang it, man. And I believe that this big fireball here on this post is the B-1 or B-1B Lancer exploded in the background. And kind of brings us to another topic. There's a guy that wrote a book called Strategic Relocation. I can't think of his name right off my brain. But anyway, he did some interesting talking about theorizing about the war, the upcoming world war or war with communist China, in which he said that there had already been an arrangement made by the powers that be to allow a first strike scenario on the United States in the form of maybe some small detonations or a large EMP over maybe the East Coast or West Coast of the United States, in which case we would then have a conventional kinetic war with China to use up basically all of the old garbage that we have. And, when you see articles like this where, this plane crashed and then we saw the other one where the door flew off, opening up part of the thing. And as a matter of fact, I've done a lot of research into this. The entire aviation industry is understaffed and maintenance is not being checked on and the planes are falling apart. And this is also the case within the military. It's the oldest junk that they've ever had comparative to the year that they're in. It's also the smallest. But to continue with Joel Skousen, that's his name, his theory was that after this kinetic warfare goes, and we've used up all of this old garbage, the old planes, smashed it all up, blew it up, crashed it, and lost it in war, that the United States would then come out with next level technology, initiating a new world order led by the Western powers and their new technological marvels that they would put out. Now, that's just a theory, but the more I see stories about old stuff crashing and old stuff not working, and, you know, instead of making entirely new things, except for the AI branch of what's going on, they're making a lot of AI-powered, AI-flown things. But on the other hand, as far as fighter jets, bombers that have to do with men, none of it's getting, you know, brand new stuff. What they'll do is they'll put new stuff on old vehicles, which is cool. And it does upgrade those old vehicles, but it's not the same as coming out with new modern stuff with a longer shelf life. And even the stuff that they're making now is throwaway. If you watch my report on AI, they're planning on converting almost all of our Air Force into basically giant drones that have the capability to decide what target to take out after being programmed. In other words, they are about to fill the sky full of killer robots. Now, this is not a theory. This is straight out of the Project for a New American Century, in which they said the entire Air Force needed to be AI by the year 2025. Guess what? We're in 2024, and that's exactly what they're doing. And if you haven't seen it, I advise you to go watch that little short documentary on AI and how they're about to replace the entire Air Force with this kind of stuff. So in the near future, you may be seeing all kinds of dogfighting and bombing and all kinds of stuff where not a single soldier has stepped foot in your country from the opposing military. Pretty scary. And if you don't believe me, just ask the Ukrainians and the Russians and people in the Middle East and people in Israel and people all over the place in war zones, also along the U.S. Mexican border, that are being killed and having to deal with warfare regarding drones as bombs, as surveillance, and soon to be killbots running the streets. Hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters bring the I-5 highway to a complete standstill, blocking all traffic. Currently, hundreds of pro-Palestinian protesters and other activists are currently occupying the I-5 highway in downtown Seattle, Washington, causing traffic to be at a complete standstill as they are blocking cars and other vehicles from entering or leaving, as they are demanding a permanent end to all U.S. military aid to Israel and permanent ceasefire. Now, as for aid to other countries when it comes to military, I don't believe in it. I don't think we should be doing it, and I don't care what country it is. It's not our country. That money needs to be spent right here. It needs to be, obviously, we have a lot of problems right here. There's so many homeless and other things. The idea of spilling billions and billions and billions of dollars out for other countries to do proxy wars for us is idiocy and will increase the amount of blowback that our country and our people deal with in the future. Now, this protest. Now, I am avidly behind your right to protest, your right to have your grievances be heard, the right to free association, all of these different rights that allow us to protest, freedom of speech being the main, kind of centered idea in the First Amendment, and the right to a free press. However, guess what? You do not have the right to kidnap me. You don't have the right to kidnap any of these people. And every time that these people do protest in the middle of the road, what it is essentially is they are kidnapping you. They are holding you hostage, taking away your right to free travel. And it doesn't matter if the police are doing it with some kind of DWI roadblock or insurance stop or whatever unconstitutional activities law enforcement likes to seize and steal your time. But it is a violation of the Fourth Amendment. You are seizing me, my person, and my time. Now, why hasn't our government shut this down? Well, because they're for it. They're for destabilization. They're for problems, obviously. Because any rational-minded law enforcer or judge or anybody with any kind of control that's familiar with the Constitution knows that I have the right to travel without being molested and be secure in my papers and possessions and my body. Well, if I'm being stopped on the roadway by a bunch of people with some kind of political agenda, whenever they start getting violent, that's terrorism, And B, it's the act of kidnapping and depriving me of my Fourth Amendment right to free travel and privacy and to be secure in my possessions and my belongings and my body. Now, that's what this is. So why don't police start arresting protesters on the road? And I don't care what for. If you're impeding traffic or stopping people from travel, you are kidnapping them. And all of these people, according to my understanding of the law, have every right to defend themselves against their kidnapper, against their oppressor. And it's so funny, all these people out there screaming about this person or that person or this group or that group or this government or that government oppressing them. So what do? They go out and try to oppress the public. They try to kidnap the public. They try to take the rights away from the individual. I've seen these about racism and other things, but one thing I never see is why don't they march over to the Saudi Arabian embassy and start protesting outside there about Middle Eastern slavery of black Africans? Why don't they go to Libya and actually, complain and protest about that? They're not going to. They'll do this safe, protected, government-sponsored kidnapping in violation of your rights. And you should be angry every time you see this. It doesn't matter if they're out there waving red, white, and blue. It doesn't matter if they're out there wearing their MAGA hats, which, by the way, you have never seen that. That's never happened. But I'm just saying, if it did, they are kidnapping you. And it doesn't matter what you're, protesting, what your political agenda is. I don't give an F. Get the F out of the way. As the great Ludacris says, B, get out the way. Get out the way. Anyway, let's move on. The new Jeffrey Epstein files have set off a fresh round of conspiracy theories. And just like I was saying before, that's exactly what they want, is for a bunch of nonsensical, unfactual conspiracy theories out there clouding the actual information that's being released. That's what they've always wanted, and that's what they're doing. Hold on one second. Boy, that was a lot of dead air time for just a cough button. Anyway, this is a picture of Jeffrey Epstein, the child molesting Israeli Mossad agent or asset, however you want to put that, and also probably worked for several other intel agencies on the side. Why wouldn't we have a bunch of conspiracy theories about it? But just like I said, all of these news agencies, the fake news propaganda mockingbird association of news outlets, including NPR, who is directly funded by the U.S. government, and, after the Smith-Mundt Act, or whatever that's called, they're allowed to propagandize you, lie to you, and so, of course, there's going to be lots of conspiracy theories out there. The question is can anyone put all of the conspiracy theories along with the factual realities and come out with a clarity of what's happening? And I'm going to say that they're not going to do that. And I'm going to say that very few, if any, scapegoats are going to happen out of this Jeffrey Epstein thing. And, did you really need this big drama to realize that the world's ran by a bunch of pedos? I mean, take the Catholic Church, for example. I'm not attacking any Catholics. So let's get that straight. I'm fine with your belief. But if you were going to join an organization of any kind, and then you found out there was 300,000 or more pedophiles in the organization, well, maybe you shouldn't be part of that organization. Or if, you started, say you wanted to go join the local Kiwanis Club, but then you found out that they had like 3 million sexual assault victims. Would you still want to be part of their club? I'm just saying. I don't know. You can get mad if you want to, but reality hurts feelings. I know. And speaking of hurt feelings and mistruths, Liar-in-Chief Biden says he attended funerals of the officers who died as a result of January 6th. Only problem with that is none, nil, not one, That's right, 0 police officers actually died as a result of the milquetoast protest / riot on January 6th, which we happen to be on the anniversary of that. Matter of fact, the only people that died that day were victims of government, killed by democide, Ashley Babbitt being one of those. And the rest of them, as I understand it, were either died from cancer or committed suicide in the days following and had nothing at all to do with this. Although the media and the regime that's in right now continues to push dishonest, flat out bogus, easily provable lies. Anyway, right here, delivering a speech to the nation Friday, Sleepy Joe Biden falsely told the world he had attended multiple funerals for officers who died as a result of the January 6th riot, when in reality only protesters died due to the debacle. Over 140 police officers were injured, Biden said, of January 6th. Jill and I attended the funerals of police officers who died as a result of the events that day. Because of Donald Trump's lies, they died because of lies brought a mob to Washington. But in reality, that didn't happen, did it? On February 2nd, 2021, Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden did visit the U.S. Capitol, pay their respects to the deceased U.S. Capitol police officer Brian Sicknick, who died of a heart attack on January 7th, but it was not his funeral. So not only did he lie about going to the funerals, but the bigger lie in the whole thing is that anyone in the government or any police officer died as a result of January 6th, which obviously, if you've watched the footage and you took away the propaganda and the, talking heads analyzing it, you could see that it was nothing but a very milquetoast protest at best. Nothing compared to the BLM or Antifa riots who tried to burn down cities, literally. Anyway, moving on. Pollard. Jews will always have dual loyalty and should consider spying for Israel, according to the Jerusalem Post. So before you call me an anti-Semite, I didn't write this article. In fact, it was written by the Jerusalem Post right here. If you're outside Israel, then you live in a society in which you are basically considered unreliable, he said. And if you don't know who this guy is, Jonathan Pollard is a convicted spy for Israel whose story haunted the American Jewish community relations with the U.S. government for decades, and he's unrepentant. He doesn't care. As a matter of fact, he, like a lot of other people, have the idea that he is Jewish first and Israel first, despite his citizenship of another country. The bottom line on this charge of dual loyalty is, I'm sorry, we're Jews, and if we're Jews, we will always have dual loyalty. Now, remember, this is according to this one guy, so let's not paint a broad brush on everybody. However, he's not the only one that has that opinion. Pollard said in an interview published Thursday in Israel Hayom, his first extensive remarks since his release from prison in 2015. Pollard recalled how much of the Jewish leadership did not stand up for him following his 1985 arrest, when he was a civilian analyst for the U.S. Navy who was found to be spying for Israel. If you're outside of Israel, then you live in a society in which you are basically considered unreliable, he said. The U.S. Jewish leadership eventually softened its outlook, and some Jewish leaders lobbied for Pollard's release, saying his life sentence was excessive. Well, that's what happens when you commit treason. They used to kill people for stuff like that, but I don't know. I guess times have changed. Anyway, he just recently went back to Israel, and he's happy, and I'm good for him. Happy, jail sucks and all that. But that was him saying it, not me. I didn't say that. The point is, there's a lot of debate and argument out there of whether or not one faction or another faction tries to rule the world. Guess what? All the factions try to rule the world. Do they all rule the world? No. There's a conglomerate of different factions. You got the Illuminatis, you got the Zionists, you got the U.S. governments, the Chinese governments, you got all these secret societies, you got the world governance. There's all kinds of groups, and they're all doing the same thing in the same way. And that is, the elite of those groups could give a crap less about the peasants of those same groups. Worldwide, the same thing always happen. Those in power lose their mind, and they become, what do they call that? Corrupted? Absolutely, because of absolute power. I think that has a strong ring to it. As a matter of fact, in my opinion, there are no righteous people in positions of power because those positions have already been taken by the most evil of the evil on the planet. Because guess what? Power over other people never crosses a righteous man's mind in the first place. So, he's not sitting around wanting to run other people's lives. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah. Donald Trump completely vindicated by Epstein documents, I guess. It's a bunch of hearsay. Did he or didn't he? Evidently he didn't, but those files that were released didn't condemn or, do anything. It's people in a trial that were naming names, and we got to hear those names. And again, it's not a client list at all by any stretch of the imagination. We're never going to get to see that. Have you ever seen the client list of the DC Madam? Didn't think so. And I don't think you ever will. Which reinforces all those widely, reported on conspiracy theories. Maybe if the media actually reported on the truth, there would be less conspiracy theories out there. Anyway, moving on. EU steams ahead with controversial centrally controlled digital euro. If you're tired of censorship and dystopian threats against civil liberties, subscribe to Reclaim the Net. Or you could just listen to me here on Mountain High Time. The European Union has been known to waste a lot of money on wrong or even hopeless causes. And opponents of the centralized digital money, the CBDC, must be hoping that the digital euro, which has had 1.3 billion earmarked towards its development, will be one of those. In fact, in announcing the move, EU's European Central Bank made sure to add the disclaimer that it's not making a comment to launch any of the development work listed. But for the moment, ECB is pushing forward with its plans, and much earlier than observers expected. So much so that the announcement is viewed by some as a surprise. A total of 5 private sector partners will now receive huge contracts. In the past, Amazon was controversially involved in the e-commerce payments prototype. And you can read on to this basically. Let me just skip to it. And I might get part of the thing wrong because I didn't read it. So you heard much I read. This is the future, period. Centrally controlled digital money. And they're not going to stop until they end cash. Matter of fact, I went through Dunkin' Donuts the other day to get somebody a coffee, and they had a sign in the window. They don't even take 20s. They're getting rid of money everywhere. They don't take the money. They don't have change for the money. And the governments and the banks are completely behind this idea because they want you completely subjugated as a slave, as a debt slave, as a monetary slave, connected to some kind of digital money. And that money will have strings attached, obviously. Who are you? What do you believe? Where do you live? How do you live? All of these things will be, influenced and levered against the amount of money that you have or don't have. And then think about being debanked. Like, people have already been debanked in the system we have. Imagine when it's completely controlled from the top and it's all digital. And this includes like your mortgage, your house payment, your car payment, etc. It's all digital. So one day it just turns off. And then what do? Well, then the repoers come to get it, so you better hide it. Election interference. PBD YouTube stream glitched out during an interview with Trump's lawyer Aline Haba. None of us find that. I don't even know if I'm live on YouTube right now. You never know. Let's go check it out right now and see if we're in there. Yeah, we're still on YouTube. But does this surprise anybody that they would get, turned off in the middle of their broadcast? Not me. I've been banned 7 times. 7 channels with unique content that just got destroyed. Thank God I saved all my favorite videos, but some of those things that were like one-offs, or I just went live or said something or did something or even made a song that was live, gone forever, because the authorities are the ones that decide who gets to see what and how. And aren't you kind of sick of living that way, where people somewhere else that has nothing to do with you decides what you get to see and hear? Bugs me. The digital ID rollout is becoming a hacker's dream. Now, there's a whole idea behind this, and some of you guys might watch the MIAC Mini Ice Age Conversation channel or show that we have on Thursday night right here on Revolution.Radio. But in that show, one of the times we were talking about the Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is the entire plethora of peripherals or things that you could connect to that are internet related. So anywhere on the planet, your device could connect to that and also be connected to you. The Internet of Things. But in order to access the Internet of Things, you have to have an ID, a digital ID. So they want you to be, and matter of fact, let's just look this up because it's pretty deep right here. This is a pretty deep idea. If you get it, you get it. So what is the definition of ID? According to the dictionary, the part of the mind in which innate, instinctive impulses and primary processes are manifest. The conflict between the drives of the ID and the demands of cultural superego is, the example of this definition right here. So think about that. The part of the mind in which innate, instinctive, impulsive, and primary processes are manifest. Your ID. You need your ID to go onto the internet. Let me spell it right. IoT of things. The term IoT, or Internet of Things, refers to the collective network of connected devices and the technology that facilitates communication between devices and the cloud, as well as between the devices themselves, i.e. you and your implant or your phone or whatever you have on. Now, if you put these two IDs together, you need the ID to enter or participate in the metaverse that they are calling behind the scenes the Internet of Things. And together what you get is a nation of IDs inside the Internet of Things. And let me spell that out for you if you have not got it. That's ID IoT. And that's what they want out of everybody. And that's why there's dumbing down programs and propaganda programs, because they want your ID to join the IoT, making everyone out there an idiot. Literally, they tell you these things in your face, these terminologies, they link them together. It's all like that. And the idea of things that's usually like, always backwards, like healthcare. You mean sick care, because you deal with people that are sick. Once they're sick, they're not trying to make you healthy. ID, that's right, your digital ID. Your ID that you need to get into the Internet of Things. And once they have everyone connected, then the world will be full of idiots. Idiots. Literally. Like, I mean, how else can you say that? And when you look around and you see people like lost in their phone, right? If you've ever seen that, like, then you're seeing it. You're seeing the idiots develop. And I don't mean that they're dumb people, obviously, if you're catching on. It's just an idea of the future. Your ID enters the Internet of Things. And what they want for you as a person, as a peasant, is to be completely controlled by your connection to the Internet of Things. You have to have your ID to connect to that. And that ID will decide how much money you have, where you can travel, what you can eat, whether or not you can talk to other people or even be on the social medias or any of that stuff. It'll all be connected to that ID in the Internet of Things, making you the idiot. And I don't think that they do these things on accident, just like MAD, mutually assured destruction. So if countries are just going to threaten each other with blowing each other up, they have this thing called MAD. It's a mutually, assured destruction. It's MAD. And if they have a MAD, where do they go? They go hide in a dumb, deep underground military base, right? Because they're dumb, because they got mad, because they created a whole world of idiots. I don't know. Anyway, I think we're coming up on the half-hour break. And like I said, I'm just winging it today. I didn't actually read most of this stuff. But I wanted to get into that when we get back. The exploration or supposed exploration of space and what it actually means and where is it going. Because I'm sure a lot of you have watched science fiction movies of all different kinds. When they deal with the not too distant future as far as space travel, you rarely ever see a movie depicting countries out there. Maybe a Space Odyssey 2010 or something like that. Or was it? Yeah. But most of the movies like Aliens or any of those things, what's in the space in the future are corporations. The exact epitome of fascism is what trolls space in the future. Networks of companies that decide what rules are. So not democracies, but companies. And, that's the idea that they've been pushing for decades. And anybody that's watched sci-fi knows that almost all of the movies in the future, you got like Weyland-Yutani Corporation or whatever the corporation is. And they're mining and they're making settlements and they're expanding into space. But rarely ever do you see a movie that's showing, hey, well, the United States or China or somebody, they just expanded out to the moon and then we started building, and then, the two mutually assured destruction people on Mars blew each other up because they didn't have dumbs. So now we got to go there and build some dumbs so we can build some more colonies and then we could be mad again once we have a nation of idiots. Connected to the Internet of Things, of course. Anyway, this article is what we're going to get into. Moon resources could be destroyed by thoughtless exploitation, NASA warns. In other words, they don't really want people up there. They don't want corporations up there. They don't want people up there. But what happens when corporations become so big that they rival nations and they decide they're going to do whatever they want anyway? What if Elon Musk secretly started building a program where he was literally just going to fly off to Mars without any government's permission and start secretly putting people there? Now, I know what a lot of you guys are thinking is that the governments have already been doing that for a long time. There's lots of theories out there. There's lots of stories out there. There's people that claim to have gone to Mars and live there. There's other people that claim that, they remote viewed what was going on Mars. Everything from little children being abducted on Earth and sent to Mars to, people living out lives there and then being reset to their young years and being put back on Earth. I mean, all kinds of really way far out there stuff. Is any of it true? Who knows, man? Who knows? I don't believe that stuff. It would be easy for me to believe that there is a breakaway civilization. And who knows who funded it or how long it's been broken away. That would be easy for me to believe. And when we get back, we'll also talk about the supposed 8 to 10 foot aliens that allegedly, which is really silly, allegedly, needed some Nikes and felt like getting some fresh tacos down at the Miami shopping mall there, which the police say it was two kids with sticks or something like that. But we'll get into that here in just a second on Revolution.Radio. And you were listening to Mountain High Time. And this is Ransom Godwin. I hope the weather is partly cloudy for you guys out there, if you know what I mean, which I think a lot of you do. Oh, let's turn this off. I thought I was looking at you guys talking to you. You guys weren't seeing my pretty face because I had it covered up. But anyway, when we get back, we'll talk about 8 to 10 foot aliens. Do they exist? Could they exist? And would you believe them if they came and knocked on your door and asked for money for the Salvation Army? And how would you even know if aliens did exist? How would you know that they're not walking amongst you right now? Matter of fact, with the breakthroughs in genetic technology that humans have, who's to say that an alien race couldn't just grow a human automaton or a little android or organic android of some kind to just sit down and walk around us, infiltrate, rise to the top of the governments? I mean, think about it. If we're talking about extraterrestrials with real technology, why would they just come down and be silly? They would have many, futuristic and complicated ways to infiltrate our society if they wanted to do that. Or they could just go down to the southern border and claim amnesty. Amnesty. Yep. Oh. I forgot to mute Revolution.Radio. Anyway, we'll be back in a flash in about 5.
Today, the demand for gold continues to flourish globally. History proves that fiat paper money is designed to go to zero through inflation, whereas gold has intrinsic value in which it maintains forever. Paper money is a debt instrument. Gold is an asset of wealth in its own right. It does not depend upon any governments, corporations, or individuals' promise to repay. ITM Trading has spent the last 27 plus years developing a team of expert researchers and analysts to make this possible. Simply put, we build strategies which are historically proven to protect your wealth and assets through any economic downturn or currency collapse. Schedule your free gold and silver strategy call 866-834-1422. That's 866-834-1422. Or go to learn.itmtrading.com/MIAC and keep watching Mountain High Time and Mini Ice Age Conversations if you know what's good for you.
Imagine, if you will, a glimpse into the possible outcome of a million mistakes. What you are about to watch is a nightmare. It is not meant to be prophetic. It need not happen. It's the fervent and urgent prayer of all men of goodwill that it never shall happen. But in this place, in this moment, it does happen. In the midst of it comes unexpectedly over the phone the announcement of the President of the United States, the warning from the very top declaring a state of emergency of suspected enemy missiles approaching. It's anyone's guess where they might land. What city will be obliterated? How many could be lost? And last but not least, will it be me? Will it be my family, friends, my square inch on the map? Minutes go by and nothing. Right as you exhale a breath of relief, an instant wave of horror treks down your spine and a sinking feeling in the pits of your stomach. Just then, the power goes out. The only light you see is the glow of your phone. Shining in your face, the icons of terror. Low battery, and even more frightening, the symbol for connection to information and loved ones gone. You try the landline in your office, desperate to contact family. Nothing at all, just a bone-chilling empty silence. Panic-stricken, you blindly forage for your car keys. Success. Something in this nightmare of a day has gone right. Now it's a desperate mad dash for your car. Your mind now in a near intellectual paralysis. Logic a struggle as you cope with a Gatling gun barrage of horrific ideas of what your family might be going through in this very moment. Miraculously, your car starts and you begin your seemingly apocalyptic drive to locate your kin. As you pass the first stop sign, the sight of civic decay is already bearing its nasty head as you speed past fights in the streets, looting, and a complete halt of any semblance of an evolved civilization. To your right, a large fire. As angry, fear-filled citizens with their arms full of grocery items run from what used to be your local food market ran by a mom and pop's couple now collapses into a bonfire of dreams. Because of the commotion, your attention span has been stolen. Now before your automobile is a violent crowd. They have now surrounded your car, banging on the metal, bashing at the glass, screaming incoherently. What just a second ago was the road to salvation, now a deadly trap of circumstance and fear blocking your escape. This can't be happening, repeatedly echoing in your head as you start to mumble the phrase in a shrieking, inaudible, childlike tone to yourself. The trepidation now filling your lungs like a poison fog, suffocating and smothering in its certainty. Just then, as your heart and soul seem to be having synergistic perturbations, an alarm blares, overwhelming your senses. Immediately you recall the warning of missiles. You close your eyes and expect the end. But the alarm morphs into a sweet, familiar beckoning of your alarm clock. You open your eyes and switch off the welcoming timepiece. A warm filling of relief as you realize your family is safe in their beds, and no pending doom is written in the stars today. For a split second, you ponder the poor people of your vision, and it reinforces your confidence that you have already prepared for the any scenario. You have peace of mind your children will eat and thrive, because you invested in their future to give some stability if any break in the normality of life happens. You invested in heaven's harvest. The you in this story was a fictional you. But do you get the feeling something unthinkable is going to happen soon? I sure do. The problem is we probably won't see it coming. One morning you'll wake up and the world will be a much different place. Don't panic, prepare. Smart folks are investing in emergency food now. A wise man once said, "It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it." Heaven's Harvest is the nation's leader in emergency food storage. It's the only investment you get 100% of your money for, even better than gold. Survival experts recommend the 3-month emergency food kit. Go to heavensharvest.com, use the code ADAPT at checkout and save a mind-blowing 15%.
And welcome back to Revolution.Radio. I guess I got back late. What happened here? There we go. I came back late. Anyway, so what were we talking about before the break? I don't know if I remember. No, I do remember. Aliens. The aliens and looking at space. That's what we were looking at. Moon's resources could be destroyed by thoughtless exploration. NASA warns, making it sound like they do not want us up there looking around, or at least not corporations. And to a degree, I do agree with that because, there could be things that we would discover that they might destroy as a good example of that is what's going on in the Yucatan right now, where they're building this big old train and they're finding all of these little artifacts and caves with ecosystems. Guess what? They're just rolling right over that. They're just rolling right over it. Species we'll never see before, artifacts that'll never be seen again. It's not very important when it comes to progress. So the idea that things get destroyed by progress is true, but at the same time, look at Europe and other places where we found some of the oldest things right underneath our footsteps, and a lot of the mysteries of the past got dug up because of new construction and coming across things in the ground. That would be here. Now, on the moon, it would be mostly, I would think, scientific breakthroughs and discoveries that we're talking about destroying. But let's come back down to Earth for a second, and I want to see if I can find it. The aliens thing. Oh, that's not it. That's that's from our other show. There we go. All right, let's see. I'm gonna look it up and see if we can't, because obviously there was an 8-foot stuff there. Now I don't know what happened or why they had such a police presence. Oh. Started typing what I was saying. 8-foot aliens. Yeah, here we go. Rumors of shadow aliens at base. Here, let me mute this before we get too crazy here. All right. Rumors of shadow aliens at Bayside Marketplace go viral after large fight among teens creates chaos. Now, I've never seen a police response to teens fighting like that. However, it says a large brawl between teenagers caused chaos at Bayside Marketplace in downtown Miami on Monday night. However, social media users claimed that what ensued then was something much more extraterrestrial. As the fight drew a heavy police presence to the area that evening, rumors quickly spread around Twitter and other social media platforms suggesting that the police weren't there to handle a group of rowdy teens, but rather 8 to 10 foot tall shadow aliens. According to an amateur video posted online, there are moments when a big creature could be seen in plain sight standing in front of the entrance to the shopping mall, causing many online conspiracists to post their takes on exactly what happened that Monday night. Of course, the memes came flooding in as well. And let me see if I can show you guys this, at least on YouTube. It's so blurry. That's what it is. It's a blurry, out of focused video. Overexposed from a long ways away, super zoomed in. Now, I can't explain why there is so many police. I mean, I can't. That looks like overkill to the max. But what they're saying is, something was crawling around. Let me see if I can skip to the part. They might not even show it on this video. I think I might have wasted my time with that one. Anyway, I seen it. It was a blurry blob. But this is the question that I got. As I was saying a minute ago, if any extraterrestrial civilization came to Earth and wanted to infiltrate or find out what was going on or learn about us or etc., 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 you would think that, they would have the technology as we do to create illusions, deceptions, etc. And what I mean by that is genetic engineering. So right now, if I saw a craft land outside that was anti-gravitic and some kind of amphibian alien gray stepped out of it, I'm already wondering, which lab did you come from? Which government created you? Is that the leftovers of Operation High Jump or something? Or is it like something that one of those UFO circular flying discs that the Germans were making plans on and maybe even building? Is that what I'm looking at? Am I looking at Skunk Works, Lockheed Martin, with some kind of other biological lab involved in it? How would you know that something was extraterrestrial in the first place? So if the government were to all of a sudden say they have now made contact with an extraterrestrial civilization, what would that look like to human beings? In our fantasy, in our fiction, we like to have this idea of humanoid type creatures, whether they're reptilian or bug-like or, grays, but whatever. We always kind of throw them in the lump of humanoid. And, but why would they be? Why would they be humanoid at all? And most likely, they wouldn't be biological in the first place. And I'm gonna get into why here. Let me find my articles here. I don't even think they would be biological in the first place. It doesn't seem logical for me that you would send people that probably wouldn't last, and you would have to have like a multi-generational ship. And that just kind of is nonsense. Plus all of the energy, unless you're saying they're just, going in between time space, kind of like what some people believe, that there's some kind of particle that you could put out that would displace gravitons, and you could kind of slip in between one spot in time space to another place in time space without actually going anywhere at all. You just kind of pop through there. Now, if that doesn't exist, which it might not, they would kind of have to know where we were at in space-time. I mean, like, think about that. And one thing that bothers me about watching like science fiction movies, especially time travel movies, is that, they hop in the time machine, they go back to the past. Okay, no big deal. The only problem with that is that not only is the Earth in a different place, but the sun's in a different place, the solar system's in a different place, the galaxy is in a different place, and whatever bigger structures are there, all of it's in constant motion. So you would have to calculate all of the movement of all of the matter on the time-space spectrum there to know exactly where, not when, to show up. So it seems kind of silly whenever you watch those movies about time travel. You'd have to know exactly where everything was. So like if you just got into a time traveling device right now that was stationary and you jumped in it and you turned it on, you said, hey, I want to go back 5,000 years, you'd end up out in the middle of space, not even on the planet, because the planet wasn't here 5,000 years ago. It was slightly somewhere else. Over time, it's been moving. So that's kind of silly. So in the same concept of that, if you were an alien race and you were out looking for life in the cosmos, you would probably do what we do, which is send small robots, drones, sensors, and at some point you might even send, highly advanced robotic humanoid, maybe you could call them creatures or not, automatons, or maybe they even have advanced to the point where the robot or the AI has feelings and critical thinking skills and is aware and conscious of itself and what it is. Could be. Right? But in any case, it's doubtful they would send biological beings here to Earth. Unless they're like us. If they're like us, then they're probably out looking for a good gang probing, looking for a good time. And, what would humans do to aliens in space if they were humanoid? That would probably be a nightmare. There's so many perverts on Earth. I don't think that the governments of the world would really invest much money into, doing anything with alien species if we couldn't kill it, fuck it, or, oops, beep. That was Messed up. Kill it or do nasty stuff to it. That's the human way. And that's probably why we're a hybrid species right now. Is because that's the only worth that, groups of men have seemed to come across in the ages other than gold. That is the power-hungry, greedy, animalistic type people. Other people, they just enjoy the nice garden, time with their family, loved ones, and the beautiful earth we live on. Now, if we're hoping those aliens are those type of people, that's great. But what if they're not? What if they're just exploitation? What if they're just people that like to take samples of all of the examples of life out there? A lot of people say, hey, what would an interstellar species want to be down here taking samples of stuff? They're so far. We do that to ants. We do that to bacteria. Of course, they would do that for studying, for cataloging purposes and things like that. But to actually send a biological being from another, unless it's one of the close stars that are only like 4 or 8 light years away and they have some hardcore technology, I just don't see them coming here. They'd send robots. Wouldn't they? Now, if they were close by and they did come here, they might have been stranded. And actually, in my opinion, I kind of think the Great Pyramid of Giza is actually just a telephone to Sirius. They get that thing going. It pumps out some microwave laser. And they could contact any planet around that system within 8 years. Or what if we did, what's the one next to it? Is it Reticuli? I can't remember the name of it. The closer star, the one that's even closer, 4 light years away. If they came from that little red, area, they could maybe actually get here. We could communicate with them, and then they could communicate back. So if there was something out there, we're already way past the point of communication. Matter of fact, the people in the ancient past that built the Great Pyramid of Giza were at the technological level to talk to people in the stars. A lot of people don't understand that. There's, what's his name? Christopher Dunn, right? He theorizes that it's just a big machine, and he demonstrates how it could be a machine. And he demonstrates also that the evidence is left behind that it is indeed exactly that machine. Now, he theorizes some kind of power substation or something to power something. I disagree. I think it's just a telephone. They would pump that thing up. It would get powered by sonic resonance from the Nile River, and they would pour hydrogenated zinc and sulfuric acid down 2 different tunnels. And when they mixed, it would make a chemical reaction that produced hydrogen that would bounce around in this little shaft and then start creating microwave. So in a sense, someone with some hardcore mathematics, engineering skills, and a good knowledge of chemistry could have built something like the Great Pyramid of Giza as nothing more than a telephone to tell someone somewhere something. And they would get that message within 8 years. I don't know. That was a little of a side, off the side thing there. But in my opinion, there's no 8-foot aliens going to be walking around unless the stories of the Anunnaki are true, in which they might show up and say, hey, rent's due. Because, that is a possibility. They're just showing up every once in a while getting all the gold from the people that think they're supposed to be running stuff. The right to rule people that believe that they're born to rule stuff, like the monarchies, et cetera, et cetera. Same people that are collecting gold for centuries and millennia. That was far out there. Let's get back to the news. And, I had my little rant about the aliens. But I just don't think that the governments of the world are going to let companies really get out there and really find any discoveries. Will they let them mine the solar system and bring in money and riches for the powers that be? Of course they would do that. Here's a article that I found kind of funny because I have this bank, USAA. Lawsuits accusing USAA of favoring military officers over enlisted. Certified as class action case moves on. The accusation is that they are pushing the peasants, in other words, the enlisted, to programs that cost more and have more fees, and then sending the officers, the elite, and others over to other people. Now, of course, they deny this, but you know what? Having this bank, I can't say anything bad about them. They've allowed me to do banking for some time. And this is one of the better banks, and it sucks that you as just a regular civilian can't open up an account here, because they do, for the most part, in my opinion, treat their customers right. Moon resources could be destroyed by thoughtless exploration, NASA warned. Science and business are heading for an astronomical clash over the future exploration of the moon and the exploitation of its resources. The celestial skirmish threatens a breakout over companies' plans to launch dozens of probes to survey the lunar surface landscape over the next few years. An earlier Pioneer mission 1 is set to launch this week. The aim of this extraterrestrial armada largely, and by the way, look, they're sending out robots, right? Yes, it's deja vu. I was going to point this out. They are sending out robots. They're not going to send out people. The aim of this extraterrestrial armada, largely funded through NASA's $2.6 billion Commercial Lunar Payload Service, CLPS initiative, is to survey the moon so that minerals, water, and other resources can be extracted to build permanent, habitable bases there. These would later provide springboard for manned missions to Mars. So, not in our lifetime. A lot is riding on astrobiotic moon lander set for launch Monday on its new Vulcan Centaur. United Launch Alliance teams hoist the Vulcan rocket booster for certification. One mission into the vertical integration facility adjacent to the Space Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force. The Space Force. Anyway, they're getting ready to send all kinds of robots up there. Isn't it weird how all of a sudden all these things that we haven't been doing all this time, they're about to do, or they're saying they're about to do. And then if you go back 10 years, you would have felt the same way. Oh, wow, they're finally going to do that. It's hard to believe that we're even on a liquid fuel rocket technology still. It's hard to believe that. Anyway, let's go back to the past. Scientists may have found an ancient path into America 24,000 years ago. Problem with that, we already know people were in the Americas up to 30,000 years ago. In South America, in North America, and in fact, the entire story is missing most of the story. Anyway, according to these guys, the frozen highway may have given ancient travelers a clear path from Siberia to the New World more than 10,000 years earlier. Well, you know, they had to reset the dates. I mean, I got footprints out next to me a few miles away at White Sands that are supposed to be 24,000 to 30,000 years ago. So they're going to have to, it's funny because the kids that are going to be learning stuff in the next couple of decades are going to be missing a lot of information. However, they may get to find out some truths that we'll never know. According to data based on studies of sediment and fossilized marine life analyzed by the researchers from the U.S. Geological Survey, Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, and Oregon State University, an early migration would have been made a lot easier by sea ice. So now the sea ice didn't block them in, it made the trip easier. Everything you know is wrong. That's right. And it's funny to me because some people think the Clovis people are Native Americans. Others think they might be European because they look a lot like the Solutrean culture. And we don't know. Guess why? Because as far as I know, no one's found a Clovis body. Nobody. So we have no idea. Let's see here. Might be wrong. Right here, it says the only human burial that has been directly associated with tools from the Clovis culture included the remains of an infant boy found in Montana that researchers named Anzique. Paleogenic analysis of Ankh-1's ancient nuclear mitochondrial and Y chromosome DNA reveal that he is closely related to some modern Native American populations, including those in southern North America. That's the Four Corners, man. And in Mexico, man. Yeah. One body. One body. I don't believe that you could base anything on one body. Now, if you start finding 20 or 30 of them, yeah. It's just like this. This is kind of my point exactly. They don't even know the story of mankind. There's new articles coming out now that say that Neanderthal is not a different species, but is indeed human. Us. And that their separation may have been wrong. And if you think about that just for a minute, first they said they were our direct ancestor. Then they tried to say they were cavemen. And then they said, you know what? Wait, we got some DNA. They're a different species. No, wait a minute. We met them a while back and we kind of bred with them. Now, you know what? It was way further back we did that. So in other words, they have no idea. Two, species that are probably really close to the same species. And then you have all of the other species that were going on at the time. In other words, they have no idea man's origins in the first place. And while supposedly man was leaving Africa, Neanderthals were already hanging out in Europe for hundreds of thousands of years. And now we're saying we may have bred with them up to 200,000 years ago. And then new articles coming out saying, no, they got it wrong. We're actually the same species and always have been, which really puts some weird stuff, going out there. Because if you're into the genetics field and some of the studies that they do, you'll know that sub-Saharan African people attribute 20% of their DNA to an archaic ghost species. And they say that breeding event only happened 40 to 50,000 years ago. You can take that however you want to. In other words, they have no idea where man came from, how long we've been here, and how many variations there were of us. None. They have like 1% of the idea, 1% of the story. And the same goes for paleontology and archaeology and all of these other things when you're digging things out of the ground. Maybe except for geology, because geology is everywhere and you can prove that one layer is the same layer in another place. That stuff's pretty conclusive. But as far as, picking out fossils here and there and then finding out that one was at this time and then, oh, well, that definitely, that's the science. The science is settled. Oh, wait. We found another one over here that's 100,000 years older. Oops. Oh, well, we'll just write it. We'll change it. Don't worry about it. They don't know. Oxygen levels on exoplanets reveal presence of alien technology, not just biology. Now, this is interesting because this may be the only way that we actually get to know about or communicate with extraterrestrial species if they exist, which I would think that they would with the immense expanse of the universe that we know that we live in, being that other scary idea. Either the universe is teeming with life or we're it. And both ideas are really scary, but even more scary than that is which part of the time space are we on? Are we the first intelligent, conscious species in the universe, or are we the last? Or are we just somewhere in the middle? How scary is that to even think about? And it kind of lets you know that we're basically insignificant in the universe. In the ever-evolving quest to uncover extraterrestrial life, researchers are now expanding their scopes to include not just biological indicators like oxygen, but also signs of technology. The shift in focus brings to light a key element often associated with life as we know it, oxygen. However, its significance extends beyond biological into the realm of advanced technology on a cosmic scale. Adam Frank of the University of Rochester and Amedeo Balbi, Associated Professor of Astronomy and Astrophysics at the University of Roma Tor Vergata, Italy, delve into this connection in their thought-provoking new study, Alien Technology and Oxygen Signatures. Very interesting. Their research highlights the intricate relationship between atmospheric oxygen and the emergence of advanced technology on distant planets. Keep in mind, these are some of the same scientists probably think that the Earth is man-made global warming and we're all going to die. But anyway, I digress. Frank emphasizes the readiness to detect life beyond Earth, questioning how planetary conditions might hint at intelligent, technological producing life. We are ready to find signatures of life on alien worlds, Frank says, but how do the conditions on the planet tell us about the possibilities for intelligent, technological producing life? Balby adds, discussing their exploration into whether any atmospheric composition could support advanced technology. Their findings suggest strict atmospheric requirements for such advancements. In our paper, we explore whether any atmospheric composition would be compatible with the presence of advanced technology. We found that atmospheric requirements may be quite stringent. The duo introduces the concept of technospheres, vast domains of advanced technology emitting unique signs, or technosignatures, indicative of extraterrestrial intelligence. They argue that oxygen is not only vital for respiration and metabolism in multicellular organism, but also essential for developing fire, a cornerstone of technological civilization. In other words, you know, that liquid fuel stuff that would send the rockets up on, they'd have had to have that at least, you know, just to get up there and see, look around, whatnot. On Earth, the evolution of technology has hinged on the ability to utilize open air combustion, a process where fuel and antioxidant, typically oxygen, combine to create fire. From cooking and metal forging to energy harnessing, combustion has been pivotal in shaping industrial societies. So now all they have to do is just beam over there, get a sample, a spectrograph of their atmosphere, and we've been able to do this for a while, to see whether or not compounds that indicate simple life, but, you know, this is like skipping ahead. If we can do that, why not just look for signs of technology and then start trying to talk to those areas in the universe that have planets that indicate that technology is happening. Oops. You might be able to get biology. You might even be able to get intelligent creatures in a world that doesn't have oxygen, Frank says. But without the ready source of fire, you're never going to develop higher technology because higher technology requires fuel and melting. Interestingly, the oxygen levels needed to biologically sustain complex life and intelligence are lower than those required for technology. In other words, extraterrestrials that already are out there could colonize planets, leaving only technology, as I was talking about before. You would send drones, you'd send machines. And I don't find it that far-fetched that if you could do that, you would also send machines that build things, so you could build substations, refueling stations, and expand your sensory perception of the universe. In which case, you would also be making other worlds that would be usually undetectable detectable by these compounds that would be in the atmosphere. And also the fact that they're saying that only the worlds with open air would be able to create fire to make things work. In which case we may find planets that extraterrestrials have been on but didn't come from in the near future. Maybe after these companies start poking around in space. When did humans first start wearing clothes? Are they showing pictures of Neanderthals, and who are they talking about, man? Maybe the first human that wore clothes was like, it's cold out here, and that mammoth over there got fur on it and stuff. Wouldn't it be nice if, like, we could wrap that fur around us and be warm? Probably that's how it happened. I'm just saying. Anyway, the naked human is a vulnerable creature lacking the fur our mammalian ancestors and relatives. We have bare skin that offers little defense against the sun's brutal rays or wind-biting chill. And which, that's funny. Our naked skin is a key to the fact that we're probably didn't come from four-hand tree-dwelling creatures. In other words, we didn't come from the apes that are on the planet right now, as they tried to insinuate that we came from ape-like creatures like that. In fact, it doesn't seem like we did come from ape-like creatures because we don't have fur. It seems like whatever creature we came from was already upright walking. And that's why our hips are designed the way that they are, so that we could do that. But not only that, sweat glands, which no other ape has, and no other animals, they don't sweat like we do. That comes from running, from standing upright, running, chasing. And so it seems that, you know, we might have started out with some pretty good skin, but not furry. until we mixed with other archaic humans that may have lived in colder environments and did less running. Think about that for a second. It would be cool to find out how much sweat glands the other archaic humans actually had. That would kind of tell you how far separated we are. Anyway, without clothing, humans would never have reached all 7 continents. This technological breakthrough allowed our ancestors to live in Siberia during the height of the Ice Age and to cross the frigid Bering Sea to the Americas some 20,000. See, the old science, 20,000. There were people here already 30,000 years ago. Anyway, but no clothing survives from this period. Not a single article of clothing much older than 5,000 years has ever been found. In fact, that's incorrect. I forgot the name of the guy. The name of DuByne, the dude that is buried in Nevada in the cave, has some of the most complex textiles that's ever been discovered. And that's supposed to be 9,000 years old. We have no idea where that person came from because the people claiming that he's a ancestor of them will not allow genetic testing or further investigation into that. But anyway, what's not an argument is when the first examined the guy, he had some hardcore textiles, which, by the way, when you go back and you look at some of the people that had the best textiles, they actually were not even in Europe. Some of the Paracas people and other people in South America had hardcore stitching and textiles already going long before other people did. But I digress. But no clothing survives from this period. Not a single article of clothing much older than 5,000 years has ever been found. In fact, the hides and sinews and plant fibers worn by our ancestors all rotted away, leaving little physical trace in the archaeological record. Humans had to have worn clothing more than 5,000 years ago, of course, and in clever, indirect ways, experts have pieced together a surprising number of clues to how long ago that was. For example, with lice, head lice, which prefer to live in our hair, and body lice, which prefer to live on our clothing, are two distinct populations whose past rarely cross. Head lice spread from the head to the head, body lice from body to body, but neither usually spreads from one to the other. In 2011, geneticists took advantage of this distinction to examine the origins of clothing in Homo sapiens. The advent of clothing, they posited, allowed some of the parasites that live in our hair to expand to a new niche in our body. Modern head lice and body lice diverged some 83,000 to 173,000 years ago. So it's very possible that it wasn't even humans that created clothing, or at least us, our group of humans. It could have been a different group of humans. Another thing, they just don't know, because we could have got these lice from another hominid when we intermingled with them and got our groove on. Homo sapiens were not the first to invent clothing right here. Archaic humans who have since gone extinct probably wore clothes too. In cave sites as old as 800,000 years in China and in Spain, archaeologists have found stone tools resembling hide scrapers that could have been used by Homo erectus and Homo ancestor, respectively, to soften and prepare animal skins for the clothing. About 300,000 years ago, another archaic human species left behind similar scrapers in now what is Germany. And if you remember, the story of where humans come from, we're supposedly barely just walking out of Africa not too long ago. But like I said, they don't really know. They're making it up based on pieces that they found. But now we find ape fossils in Europe. We know that there were, prehistoric apes in Asia all over the place, giant orangutans, all kinds of stuff. So the fact is, they just really don't know at all where man came from, where he originated from, and if it was even a single spot. And we might not even be here if it wasn't for different species creating admixtures, combining genes that developed into new behaviors. The truth is, it's just as much as a mystery as the day the very first person started asking the question, where did we come from? Neanderthals, who lived in Europe hundreds or thousands of years before Homo sapiens arrived, also likely made clothing to survive the cold winters. Archaeologists have found polished fragments of deer ribs resembling modern hide working tools called lissers. I don't know if I said that right, which are used to burnish leather. Using a modern bone to smooth dry hides, experts were able to recreate the same microscopic patterns of the toolware. Ooh, man. So they're seemingly ignorant. So you kind of wonder, like when your kids go to school, how are they supposed to learn anything when from month to month they're changing their theories and new facts every day? They should have a working theory, just one, that includes all information, but not a theory that limits or tries to settle the science. Because obviously, with this topic in particular, you can see that science is never settled, ever. An 8,000-year-old fort defies expectations, showing that Stone Age societies built, I don't know why, but I can't read that, protective structures far earlier than we thought. A hunter-gatherer society in Siberia, but one of the oldest fortified settlements 8,000 years ago. The fortress defies expectations because it's one of the oldest found that hunter-gatherers built. The inhabitants likely had access to abundant fish and game they may have wanted to protect. The cluster of houses protected by trenches, earth banks, and wooden stakes baffled archaeologists for decades. The settlement dates to the Stone Age, a time where researchers once considered too unsophisticated for such structures. However, we know better. And speaking of that, I wanted to show you guys this right in the middle of that article, because we know that the Aryans that came off of the Russian steppes entered into India and also China and also the Levant, all about the same time, bringing with them horses, chariots, written language. And if you know about all of the languages of Europe, for the most part, and the Semitic languages, they all go back to the same language. What they're now calling Indo, or what they used to call Indo-Aryan. I think they call it something else because of World War II. So that name now is stigmatized, and they're replacing it with like Proto-European, or I forget what the other terms are. But anyway, let's go to Google Earth. And for you guys on the radio, what I'm about to show the audience is I've been trying to mark all of the pyramids that I can find in China, which also date back to 8,000 years old. And I want to show you guys that here. So I'm zooming in. If the Google Earth will cooperate, it tried to take off and go somewhere else. Anyway, let's go back over here. So far, I have found a lot of them. And here's the first one, kind of the most Western that I found. And if you'd like to do this as a hobby, I mean, they are all over the place. This is an ancient civilization that evidently the emperor that came here and made all the terracotta warriors and all that, he found this stuff. This was just out here in fields, pyramids that you can see. There's one I found right there. Well, obviously, I didn't find them. The Chinese found them long ago, but they've been covering them up. They don't fit the narrative. They found, like 6-foot tall, red-headed, blonde mummies in this area associated with these pyramids that wore swastikas. And you can see there, these are definitely pyramids, and they're in the same style of the pyramids of Giza. A lot of them not having the top stone. Let me straighten this out. But all of them, and as I brought up a few weeks ago, I believe on this show, they must have been using magnets. Yeah, there's supposed to be at least 40 known. I haven't found them all right here, but evidently, there's probably one right here, actually. A lot of them are completely hidden. See, there's one right there. I just found a new one that looks like they partially destroyed it. So I'm going to add another mark there. But yeah, they're all over the place, and they're all along the same line. Very cool. And they're hidden all over the place. And these are pyramids like you find all over the world. Step pyramids, triangular pyramids. And this is really unique because I believe these were pyramids right here. And if for the radio listeners, it's just a bunch of excavated holes. that are right next to a large grouping of pyramids. So even Google Earth shows that there's been some major excavation, and if you see these squares, I don't actually know what this is, but what it looks like to me is they've been excavating in a systematic area right here, and right next to it, pyramid right there. And then when you go further over here east, you start seeing more and more pyramids, and they've been putting buildings on a lot of them. So some of the pyramids are covered with buildings, and these date back 8,000 years. So this is the same time probably that people were building the first pyramids all over the place. You know, I know they like to date them at about 5,000 years there in Egypt, but I would say that most people now agree that they're probably older than that, and that the Egyptian pharaonic people that came across them also started graffitiing them with their, their hieroglyphics and stuff that don't even match the technology. All the oldest, All the oldest Egyptian stuff is the best. And you find that the same in South America. It's all the best. Here's a whole grouping of pyramids right here. And I would bet that if someone connected these are probably depicting things in the sky, as we find in other places, or at least they're aligned to it. So here, let me zoom in. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 in a row, 5 right here. So these would have also been an entire city, a whole civilization. And this is a big area. And here's a big giant one right here. And they're so big that, people couldn't destroy them back in the day. The Chinese government doesn't really like them. It doesn't fit the narrative of their history. So they grow trees on them. And they try to erase them off the map and make them disappear. Here's another one. And as you can see, most of them have this esoteric top block or space missing. That would be common on pyramids. It's a special reason for that. That would be like the area in which the soul would reside above your head if you made a triangle there, or it would also like be the pinpoint of a radio broadcasting. I'm putting together a show that's about the asterisk, which seems to be, in my opinion, one of the oldest symbols ever created by man. And from that one symbol, I could see how you can unveil civilization from just one saved symbol. It holds within it the properties of equal proportion. And once humans of any kind, or any intelligent person or being, discovers equal proportion, then you can start building things. Then you can start measuring things. Then you can start plotting out things. And what's funny about over here in China is some of these are darkened by the map, so I don't know why that is. But they are literally everywhere. This was a giant city complex. And most of these are just out in fields. They don't have any archaeological notation. They're just out in fields next to farms. And eventually they'll be covered up by the cities. And here you find a little one and 2 other ones. A lot of them have eroded in 8,000 years, but they're literally everywhere. So these people, I wonder if they even realize that the hills they're driving by are ancient pyramids right there in this neighborhood. Here's another one. Some of them are so big that they couldn't hide them, and they even, like, what are you going to do with like something like this giant pyramid? And the biggest of these is comparable to the Pyramid of Giza. I forget which one that is. I think I've labeled that. If you'd like a copy of these and want to look at this, I'm going to openly share this link to this project I got. I think a lot of these have been covered up, but a lot of them are still there. The super big ones, like over here. Let's get over here. This appears to that they built a building on one. It just happens to be aligned perfect with the other pyramids out in the field. No, most of these places do not have a street view because that is in China, and they just don't allow that. Google works hand in hand with China. So it may be in the near future that you will not even be able to find these on Google Earth. And if you haven't noticed, if you use Google Earth, when you zoom in, they have this cartoony replacement thing that they're using for a lot of it. So you have to look at like actually download the program, and then you can actually look at satellite pictures over time to back in, I think the early 90s it starts. And I've been doing that with a lot of these, where I will go back in time and look at the old satellite views and see how much has changed. But yeah, this is just over and over, and you just keep finding them everywhere. Like, see here, this one's giant. This is a giant pyramid right here. And here's another one. And they're obvious. Even though the Chinese government has tried to plant trees and forest from Google Earth, because this place is such a flat place. So I'm going to expand out. This is a very, very flat place. So in between these two mountain ranges is completely flat. It's a giant river valley. And all of the pyramids start, or at least all the ones I found, start right here at the mouth or the delta of this river. Or two rivers, excuse me, where it separates into 1, 2, 3, and I think 4 over here somewhere, distinct rivers. So this would have been like, I don't know, kind of like Alexandria, or the Gaza, not the Gaza Strip, that was a Freudian slip. The Giza Plateau, right next to the river, on the delta, right there. This would have been a similar arrangement. And so why were all these people building this specific shape? I think there's a real reason, and it has to do with equal proportions, and all kinds of esoteric ideas that go along with the pyramid, especially this pinnacle that would be on the top, or the corner, the capstone, which almost all of these do not have. Of course, these are built with earthworks, of course, not like the ones in Egypt, but all around the world, I mean, the same thing's happening. You're finding the same exact pyramids. And you come over here to the Canary Islands, you find them out there. The Ganges people built a bunch of pyramids. Cro-Magnon type descendant people. And then all through this whole area, I know that, we was kings stuff going on, but according to archaeology, the oldest people that were kind of found around this area are a bunch of old blonde mummies. And people have a hard time understanding that the demographics of an area change over time. So the people that live in the Middle East now are not the same people that lived there in ancient times. They're probably a mix of those people, but not exactly the same people. We know that populations have been changing over time. Like, you can't go back into Greece and say that the people that live in Greece now are the same people that lived in Greece in, the ancient times. They're not the same people. They're partly the same people. Anyway, I don't know how I got lost under that, but I was going to maybe in a few weeks do a show about those pyramids. There's just so many, it's mind-boggling, that it's something, another thing, like I was talking about, that's being covered up or disregarded altogether by supposed people that are trying to give you truths about what's going on in the world. I forgot where I'm at right here. I think I covered all of this stuff. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Planes drop out of the sky. Your mobile. This is the article I wanted to close with. It's a good thing I found it just accidentally. Planes dropping out of the sky. Your mobile rendered useless, just like your car, as a Netflix film portrays. Nightmare that security experts insist is a very real prospect. And what is that? Who knows? If you watch this Obama paid-for movie, it seemed like they set up the entire movie just to say, we can't trust white people. I mean, it seemed like the entire movie was literally just set up for that one line at the end of the movie. Now, what's going on in this movie with Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, I have no idea. They never explain it. They insinuate maybe somebody hacked, maybe somebody else hacked. They have no idea. They kind of insinuated something happened with the sun, but it doesn't really matter. This is the predictive programming that the elite are pushing, is a shutdown of civilization. Now, I know a lot of the people you probably watch or listen to are also talking about the same thing, because it seems to be inevitable. As a matter of fact, when you get into the cycles that we're in, and you know that all empires fail, well, it's very predictable that this one's going to fail too. And everything points to that, especially when the elite and the people that believe that they have the right to rule are literally telling you in your face that they're going to reduce the population and that they're going to reset the world into a new whole idea. And, I'm preaching to the choir to some of you in the audience. However, some people don't really get at which point we are in this time-space, location here. And where we're at is where think about it. Why would an ex-president of the United States, other than money, I know everybody says money, but these are the type of the people that are at the top, friends with bankers. Countries don't invade other countries for money. They do it to control the people that want money. And that's what a lot of people just don't understand. We didn't invade the Middle East for oil. We have plenty of oil. We didn't invade anybody or have wars for money or contracts. We did it so that other people that want money will do what we want. And we, it's not really we. We is them. It's not our country. It's their country. They run it from the top. And who am I talking about? The central banks, who are the puppeteers of mostly everything that you see, almost all of the dramas that go on, from Obama making movies about the end of the world at the same time as promoting racial strife and everything that's happened since the Marxists kind of got in there and were allowed to continue their program. And I think that this is a program that has got the blessing, obviously, of the world elite. And this is a program of destabilizing, destroying, and then resetting. And part of how they do that is by demoralizing you. Not only, changing the morality of you, but also changing your mood, make you depressed, make you angry, and all these things. And now there's a conspiracy going out right now that they might have actually put an extra track on this movie to make you feel nervous, to make you feel upset, to make you feel like things are desperate. And I've told you before, with flicker rates, tones, colors, little messages that they put in innuendos, programming through the speech, the scenario, all of that. And I've talked about it many times, how they get you to feel for fake people. Spend your time with fake people talking about fake ideas, and then you get emotionally attached to people that don't even exist. And what they do is they suck out all of your energy and all of your feelings and endorphins and things with these fake propaganda, predictive programming things to make you feel a certain way, and also for the added benefit that you're not going to treat your fellow human being right, because all of the endorphins and chemicals and things in your body, all of the emotions that you were going to have that day were already spent on fiction, and then therefore you don't have it to give to real people. And I think that's why, literally why, whenever they had the shutdowns, they were telling people to stay more than 6 feet away from each other, because then you don't even have that electromagnetic connection that you would have being around other people, which is a proven connection. They measured this. They know exactly how far away. And then at the same time, people would go home, they'd watch porn, they'd watch Netflix, and they'd watch all this stuff, giving away their love, their emotions, their goals in life to nothing but fiction. And that's the way they want you to live. That's why they're putting out these predictive programmings to make you, feel like, well, they're right. It is the end of the world. I might as well not even try to do anything to stop it. I might as well not even participate, because it's going to be like that. And they kind of are doing that en masse to Christians as well. Don't worry, Jesus will save you. Don't worry, in heaven it'll be all right. And that may be true, but I don't think that any creator, or even Jesus for that part, would want you not to protect yourself, would want you not to protect this earth, or would not want you to do the right thing now. Instead, what they do is they kind of combine church and government. Well, all of these, big churches that promote all of the government programming that's going on, whether it be from lockdown to whatever. They're using these outlets so that you trust, if you're that kind of person, you'll trust them, and then they can push these ideas through it. And that's why the churches have changed over to worshiping weird things and doing things that are not part of their religion, because the whole thing is to completely destroy and reset everything, every single fundamental historical tradition that humans have, and put it on their head. Now, it might make you wonder, why are they doing that? Well, maybe it's because, the aliens are coming, man. And they just want you to get used to a new way of things. I don't really think so. I think their idea of things is what's alien. And you're going to have to fight it. No one's coming to save you. Only you can save you. Only you can plan for your future, and only you can teach your children. Only you care about them. And if we all stop spending so much time participating in fiction, whether it's about our history, about our politics, entertainment, whatever it is, and spend more time dealing with Earth and where we live, we'll all be better off. And thanks. This has been Ransom Godwin on Mountain High Time for Revolution Radio. See you next week. Bloop. There we go. And hopefully I didn't ramble too much or, change topics too much. But like I said, I didn't even plan ahead. I thought I was behind one day and then realized it was Saturday and I got to do all kinds of stuff. But there it was. That's Mountain High Time for this week. I hope the weather is partly cloudy for you, wherever you're at. And think about what I said. Spend more time with people. Spend more time outside. And let's replace the fiction. Although, I am guilty and I do like fiction on occasion. And I like looking at it and everything. But you never can forget while you're watching it that it is programming. It's made to program you. It's made to influence you. It's made to change you and direct you and kettle you into a certain thought process, feelings. And on top of what I told you, why waste your feelings, emotions, and thoughts and goals and all of that stuff with a fake reality that doesn't even exist, with people that don't even exist, with ideas that are completely fictional and they're not in your best interest. We'll just put it that way. Anyway, thanks for coming. This has been Mountain High Time. Like I said, I'm Ransom Godwin, your host, and I'll see you next Saturday and next Thursday for mini Ice Age conversations. But if everybody would meet me over at Magnetic Reversal News for Cosmic Catastrophes, that's where I'm going. And we'll see you next week. Peace out.
I'm certain I've lived a life that's full. I traveled each and every highway and more, much more than this. I did it my way. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention. I did what I had to do, saw it through without exemption. I planned each charted course, each careful step along the byway.